Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode. Robin, I'm going to put you on now, and then we'll get back to, we have a hot seat to do, but we got Robin Robbins. I gotta get to Robin Robbins. So anyway, I'm going to introduce you, and then this is an interview. So, and I'm going to stump you time and again in this interview. I know, because I'm so much smarter than you are. Not.
You might stump me. I don't know. It depends. There's a lot of numbers and things to go over.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So, first of all, I love this woman. She is one of the best marketers and people that I've met in my 40 years in direct response. She's a fierce businesswoman, but she does it with heart. And when she has to go at somebody, she can go at somebody with purpose and with politeness. And she was actually, I don't want to give her credit for inventing the $25,000 mastermind, but she's the one that told Joe Polish, and Joe had one of the early $25,000 masterminds, when Joe was talking about, frustration with his carpet cleaners and, not being able to take it up a notch. And I think Robin said to him, Joe, why don't you just invite a bunch of your friends and colleagues and make them pay $25,000 and they will love to be with you. I mean, it was something like that. It was close. And Robin was the first one who signed up for Genius Network, I think, along with Richard Rossi. And just because she understood the power of masterminding, coaching, group, not group think, but group collaborations. And she was early on that, very early. We're talking, 2005-ish, but she knew about it before then too. So she is so equipped to talk about marketing from so many different angles. I have a bunch of questions lined up. Some of you sent in some questions, which I'll try to get to all of those. But first of all, Robin, for those of people on the call who don't know you and don't know your background, I'd love, if it's okay, if you're comfortable with it, to tell sort of your origin story a little bit, because I think it's powerful, it's inspiring. I mean, your childhood wasn't great, from what you've told me. But basically you were born to be an entrepreneur because you were so on your own early on. And I'd like you to tell that, because that says a lot about you and who you are and how you've been so successful, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's like, where do I start? Yeah, I would not say that I was a born entrepreneur. Um, parents, my mother actually belonged to a religious cult. My father didn't. That ended up in a divorce. He abandoned us. And so I was homeless for a period of time, about a year. With my mother and my sister, I had 3 older brothers, but they had already left. We didn't even know where they were. From very early on, I sort of ended up taking on that role of being the responsible one, it's funny, I'm talking to Ken Wells. Brian, you might know Ken.
Yeah. He's the trauma expert.
Yeah. And so Joe's like, you got to talk to this guy. So it's funny because like Ken's assessment is, as a little girl, you basically went into this take responsibility mode because there were no adults. My mother was emotionally unable to equip to handle things. And I was thinking about this the other day. So he's like, you got into that mode. And I think very early on, I sort of learned how to sell influence from a very young age because my mother was so emotionally unable to handle my father leaving, and she was in this church and she didn't have a job and she didn't have money, and it was just too much for her. And I remember sort of coaching her I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but sort of trying to talk to her and manage her state, because she would just sit and sob uncontrollably. She and this is getting real personal, but like, just so you guys, she would call me. I used to work at a flower shop, and she would call me and say she was going to commit suicide, and it would be my fault. And I would come home and find her. And it would be my fault. And so she just, like, looking back now as an adult on that, I can see she just was severely depressed and unable to cope with what was going on. And so early on, I think I learned emotional intelligence, whether I knew what I was doing or I didn't read a book about it. It was just kind of like, all right, I knew how to talk her off a ledge, right? That was kind of and manage her state enough to get her to be functional, to be an adult, which at 14, you need someone to drive you, or we didn't have a car, but you know what I mean? Like, you have to have an adult in the room, so to speak. So no big deal. I mean, I've heard somewhere someone says in your 20s, your first 20 years of life, you just don't screw things up. And in your 20s to 30s, I think it's like you got to establish your career. In your 30s to 40s, or 30s to 50s, maybe you make your money. And then in your 50s, you learn how to live your passion. And then beyond that, you learned to be charitable or something. There's someone had said something like this the other day, and it kind of, and I thought about that. And the reason I'm sharing is because, like, in my 20s, I never even thought about starting a business until like late in my 20s. And I only started because I got fired from a job and I had to do something. So I just started consulting. And so, that was back in 2001. It was actually like kind of 2002. And that's kind of where I started my business. And so, I had a 6th grade education because I never finished school. I found Dan Kennedy, and because I was in sales, I had a sales job. I was one of the people at the Peter Lowe event, and I bought the, magnetic marketing.
Right.
And that really, I consider Dan one of the pivotal people in my life, because meeting him and learning direct response and having a sales background, it clicked for me. Like, oh, wow, I can actually do marketing and people will call me. Right. I said, you call yourself T-Rex. I'm becoming a dinosaur. I got to come up with my
non-extinct dinosaur.
No, but one of my cool dinosaur names or something, because, I remember sending out a letter and getting fax back forms, right? And being like, holy shit, like there's a fax coming in with an order on it, and it was like, I was like, wow, I can't believe this, So, I started the business. I ended up in the IT space.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how'd you get to IT? And, your company is called Technology Marketing Toolkit.
Yep.
And obviously you chose a good niche, or I believe that you could have chose any niche and you would have dominated it, but you chose one that you dominate completely. So, But how did you choose it? And like, why IT? That would be my first question.
Yeah, well, I had worked in a company that was a big IT firm. So it wasn't a foreign concept to me. And when I was greatness was thrust upon me and I was fired from this job, I just started calling my network, because I knew how to sell. And I just called my network, hey, who needs help with some marketing kind of thing, sort of like a warm outreach and cold outreach beyond that. But there was an association that I was familiar with, and they knew me from my work at this previous company, called CompTIA. And it was a big industry association. And I reached out to them and sold them on the idea of hiring me to do a webinar series. Really, actually, back then was a teleseminar, because webinars weren't even like a thing yet. And I did a teleseminar series. They paid me to do that for 6 months and then come and do a workshop in person at their big event. And I sold that to them, and I used that to get customers. I wasn't selling on the teleseminars. It was purely for member engagement. But I started picking up private clients, 1 here, 2 here, 3. And before I knew it, I had all these, at the time they called themselves VARs, value-added resellers, and, like fledgling MSPs, managed service providers. And that's kind of how I got started. Like that first year I was on my own. I did marketing for an MRI imaging center, a self-test software company, a medical billing company, a trucking and shipping company. So it was all over the map that first year, and I was looking for my niche. And when CompTIA hired me and I started getting clients, I just made that decision. And I wish I could say it was very strategic and I knew the industry.
Well, it was in a way, because they were, you always go to the people who are sending you the biggest checks. And
true, but I mean, I didn't sit and do a market evaluation of how big is the market and who else is in the market and where is it going? Is it a growing industry? Is it a dying industry? Like, I didn't do any of that. I just sort of like started and I got it. So there was a somewhat of God looking out for me and luck, I guess. But I was looking for a vertical. I was looking for a niche. And, so I was smart enough to know that.
Yeah. And people should raise their hand and we'll get to some questions. But it leads me into my next couple of questions, which are related, which is the programs themselves, how you make because the thing is, and I'm not just saying this to blow sunshine up your, Mm-hmm. I'm just, you are a true results leader. You're all about results. You want results for your clients. You want results for your business, and you prove it every day. I mean, I don't know if your boardroom, your meeting room still is wallpapered with mm-hmm. framed. They're more than just testimonials and endorsements. It's basically numbers. Every great client that Robin has, they spotlight them. They put them in a frame thing. We made $130,000 the first year we were with Marketing Technology Toolkit, and this story is told on these, I'll call them plaques, but they're just amazing, and the whole room is just covered with them. That's good for mm-hmm. display when people come in and all that. But it's what you're all about. If you want them to get those results, or they're going to be riffraff. They're not going to be useful to the rest of the group. So talk about that program of celebrating wins for your clients, and also the accountability groups. These are two separate questions. Mm-hmm. So it's the results, and then the accountability groups within your groups, where you have like a captain and you have them broken out into groups. You need to monitor them, because you can talk about the troublemakers that can happen, people that have left you and tried to start their own thing, all of that. So talk about those separately or combine them. The results piece to make people accountable, and then within the groups, making them accountable by having sponsored groups that you supervise.
Yeah, so I think we actually use our client testimonials better than anybody else I've ever seen.
Totally agree.
We're very intentional. So like, for example, one of the things we just started, I had to, we should have been doing this before and we could talk about why, whatever. But, like one of the things we just started doing is at the end of these, we call them rapid implementation workshops, which is for one of our programs. People are really thrilled. I mean, they're like, because they come up to me and they say, this is the best investment. I mean, I know now not everybody's thrilled. I mean, there's always one, I'm going to say always one, but there's one occasionally that's, I'll tell you a funny thing. There was 3 brothers who came into this workshop and they were only generating about $200,000 in total revenue for their business. And I have a slide, and this is a marketing lesson too. What is Robbins marketing? Like, what am I trying to teach you? And one of the things is I said, we're not timid about sales and marketing. To quote Zig, timid salespeople have skinny kids. And that set them off so bad that they left the event. Right. So anyway, but most people are thrilled. Most people are excited. So what we started doing is on a very one-on-one basis is, hey, if you love it, would you mind going to Google and giving us a 5-star review if we've earned it? And because you don't want to flood Google, you don't want to do one campaign and a bunch of reviews come in. So we're getting these reviews set up. Now, the other thing that we do is we run contests, which I got this from Joe.
Yeah, better your best, right?
Better your best. But we run contests all over for everything. So every new batch of customers coming in, they have them competing against each other. And we have a 30-day contest. We have a 90-day contest. We have an annual contest.
You don't call them challenges?
No, we call them like
good. Yeah, no, I think that's good because everybody calls them challenges, and they're contests and they win prizes.
We tell them, who's going to win this, who's going to be that.
I mean, you give away like cars and shit like that, right?
Yeah, watches, cars, but the thing is, you don't even have to give away a whole lot of stuff. Sometimes it's just the recognition of their hard work, and this is like a Mary Kay principle of how she built her organization was in giving away ribbons and badges and awards, so sometimes just recognition for small wins will encourage people. So we do this all the time. And so then we take all those case studies and we highlight them as the marketing genius of the month. If you get to be, that's like one, and we create one of those wall plaques and we have them all in the walls of our office. So when clients come to our office, which by the way, Brian, we've moved to a new office, so we have way more wall space.
That's why you moved. You need more wall space.
We grew up. We have 147 employees now, so we had to move to a bigger location.
I gotta come visit. It's
awesome. So we put them on the wall. Now, what good does that? When people come to the office, they go look for their poster and they take a picture by their poster. We send a copy of it to their office, and you'll see it. They'll hang it up behind them. They'll be on, proudly displaying that. We put it on social media. We put it on our website. We put it in presentations. We have a magazine, MSP Success Magazine. We feature them in MSP Success Magazine. So when we get a client success story, we use it in many, many, many ways in our shop. I mean,
most people have like a success panel at one live event. You run that success story throughout their membership, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we use it in all different ways. Like, so there's 10, 12 ways we'll use a single client testimonial. And so I think so you were asking about just the results and stuff. And we ask them to track their numbers. We have them doing that. So that way we can actually get data, because a lot of clients will say, well, I'm not getting any customers. Okay. And then when you really drill in, they are, but they're just, so by getting numbers don't lie, unless they're fake numbers, but numbers take the drama out of things like sales. This is kind of a Kevin O'Leary thing. It's business is very binary. You're either making your quota or you're not. You're either making a profit or you're not. It's not this, there's no gray area. And that's what numbers provide. They provide a very quantitative way of measuring success. So I think, even in our organization, we have KPIs that we say, what are the goals we have to get performance-wise to get for our customers? And that's our internal team's goal, like our digital marketing team. Okay, if they're on this program, what is our commitment to try and get them from leads, customer sales, profitability, et cetera, and then everything aligns around that because we want to help that customer get that result. Okay. So I think that's important.
What about the groups? Like you have captains, like the people inside
So
the
we
group? And then
have,
how do you supervise that to know that if there are troublemakers? And is that where you get them to be committed to giving you numbers?
so we have 4 different memberships.
Yeah, what are the
And
price points of those memberships?
so the bottom Toolkit membership is $397 a month for, these are all 2 years, right? MSP launch, which is for small MSPs that are under $500,000 in revenue. That's $997 a month. And again, I'm giving you the 2 year. 1 year is going to be about $200 more than this. So
So it's like 20. That's like
1197
$12,000 a year.
Yeah, but we don't really
2 years.
publish it. It's just like if my salespeople are on a call and someone's like, "I'm not signing a 2 year." Okay, you can do a 1 year, but it's 1197, not 997. So that kind of thing. But and then we have accelerators, and accelerators is 1,997, so 2,000. And then Producers Club where it gets a little weird because we have so many members that have been grandfathered in. There's not like, so the list price is $2,800, but by then they have so many other things bundled in that, like, hey, if you have MAP and you have our celebrity and you have this, then, so our average so let me give you these numbers instead. So our average Producers Club member spends $41,000. I wrote these down just to make sure I had $41,785 a year. Okay, so that's not just membership, that's all the add-ons. Our accelerators spend $22,419. MSP launch is 9,500, and a Toolkit member is about 4,000 a year in AR. So that's what they spend on average. Product, service, memberships, et cetera. So that's why we're always trying to ascend people, because the more they ascend, the more valuable they are. Now,
Producers Club is where you do the subgroups, is right?
Yes. Well, there's 2 accelerators and then producers. So Producers Club, and this is kind of an interesting story. So when I got the idea of Producers Club in the IT industry, they had peer groups, but they didn't have anything like what we run, right? And their peer groups were groups of about 5 to 7 CEOs that would get together and have discussions. And that's the way it ran. And my goal was, hey, I'm going to have this big, massive group. Like right now we have about 270 Producers Club members, right? And I said, I'm going to have this big group of Producers Club members in one group. I'm not doing these little itty bitty peer groups. And I was told over and over again, you'll never make it work because peer groups have to be small, blah, 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 all the things. So anyway, prove them wrong. But what we did do, and I didn't even come up with this idea. Okay. So the truth is, this is where your clients really, you got to listen. They give great ideas. So one of the members, it was like one of the first meetings, first time I was running one of the quarterly meetings, and a member comes up to me. It was a woman. She says, "Hey, Robin, I just wanted you to know there's 3 of us over here that we found out that we're geographically close, but not close enough to be competitors. And we've been meeting on a weekly basis and sharing ideas and numbers and marketing. And we love this." And as soon as she said that, a light bulb went on. And I said, okay, I want to formalize this in what we call accountability groups. And so we get the members, and they are in groups of 5, minimum 5, no more than 10 members. We let them name their group. So they come up with the name of the group. They have a logo. So when you go to one of the events, you'll see these stanchions on the table with their logo printed on it. So they know that that's their flag, so to speak. And then we have them compete against each other in numbers. So we have a quarterly contest. We have an annual contest amongst the accountability groups. And then we have the winning accountability group of the quarter and of the year, and we take them to dinner with the celebrity speakers and so forth and so on. So, so the captains we have certified and we have lifestyle captains. So certified captains have to run the groups as prescribed. So we say that you got to report your numbers, you got to do our quarterly theme, you got to run it as prescribed. Lifestyle captains can take creative license as long as they have at least 5 members that meet on a regular basis. All right. And so we did that for a couple of reasons. One, we had new members coming in, and they would join a lifestyle captain group, and it was run very loose, and they would be disappointed. They would be like, what the hell is this? I thought I was dealing with the champions of the champions. So we had to have certified captains who played it by the playbook. So we put the new members in with them. That way they're having a better experience. Right. And then members who've been around long, sometimes they don't want to report their numbers, we didn't want to force it. So we said, okay, well, then you can have a lifestyle group where they still meet and but they're just not as disciplined about metrics and numbers and implementation.
Is that a new split, the lifestyle
Yes.
versus? Yeah, I thought so. I didn't hear that before.
Yeah, because we're wearing ourselves out because there were some groups that were productive. They're productive paying members, but they're like, I just don't want to be that disciplined. And they're like, and neither does any of my guys in my group. So I was like, well, as long as you agree, but I did need to have a certified group to solve the problem as we add new members in, we wanted to add them into high protein groups that were doing it the way we prescribe.
Is there like a red flag for when a group is out of control? Like remember one story you told about the rogue captain who went off on his or her own and formed
I don't get that as much anymore. Because here's a couple things that we did. All right. So number one, Producers Club, you have to be invited in. So you have to either be in MSP launch or accelerators, and you have to be invited up by in accelerators, which is the next level down, we run like weekly accountability groups, but it's one of my people running it. Right.
Excellent.
So now they know this guy's good, this guy's not, this one needs to be moved up. He's sharp, she's growing, she's going to be good. So one thing we've done is we've put a better filtering process in place in putting people in the first place. The second thing I do is I have a member of my team now auditing these calls, to hear what's going on, and on our dashboard, we take attendance too. So we can also look and see what groups don't have a high attendance. We can see who's not posting numbers. And so we can see certain things that we kind of know are red flags. But I haven't had, now knock on wood, I have definitely had clients who've now started their own similar thing and who are directly competing with us. And, I've even had ex-employees. I have, right now I got an ex-employee that is, his 2-year agreement was up yesterday. And yesterday, a bunch of my clients came to me and said, he's texting us all. You know what I mean? So it happens, and that's, look, you can't stop it.
Yeah, no. And it's, take it, I guess you don't want to take it as flattery, but you can because you're at the top.
I just look at it's just competition. It's, you know what I mean? And you can't, the only thing you can do with competition is outperform them. That's it. That's all, you like, if I don't want to, I notice the competition because you never want to be not aware, but at the end of the day, it still comes down to I got to focus on us doing the best we can for our members and really providing value. Because if I do that, it doesn't matter who, we'll outperform anybody.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you are interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.